What's up, everybody? Today we're going to be putting on the thermal pads from EVGA on our 1070 superclocked. So if you guys got your thermal pads from EVGA to do this, and you're trying to do it on your own, it's really actually very simple. It goes by pretty quick, it's not very hard at all, but you do need a couple things. First thing you're going to need are all your thermal pads, which we'll go over it here in just a moment as we're putting them on. A Phillips head screwdriver, don't drop it, that is actually small enough to work with the screws in the back so you don't strip them out. You'll need some sort of isopropyl alcohol or something like that so you can clean off the thermal compound. You'll need thermal compound that came with it, or you can have your own. We're just going to use theirs. Usually we use our own, but they supplied it, so we'll check it out and see how it works, and if we have complications we'll take it back apart and put our own on it. And then for us, we actually just use basic Charmin, toilet paper, whatever you have. We use that to clean off the thermal paste. So with that said, guys, let's take it apart. Alright, so here we have our EVGA 1070. We've obviously got it cooler side down. It is the superclocked edition, as you can see right here. So we have it cooler side down so we can see the back plate. So we're going to go over what these screws hold in. Obviously all the screws here with the silver outlines hold the back plate on, as well as there is a front plate that we'll get to in just a moment. These four screws here actually are all that hold on this entire front cooler. Now you have to be careful whenever you take apart your front cooler, and we'll get to that here in a second. We're going to show you why. You have to worry about some tabs. Now these screws will have let's see if we can focus on this. Maybe not. They have a little spring on them. Quick, easy way to make sure you know what screw is what. But we're going to take these four out real quick. Alright. Now, as soon as you have those four out, you'll notice there's a little play. You see how it's separating right there? So you know that it's actually coming apart. So, what you didn't see is right here, this actually sits underneath this little bit of metal right there. So you got to slide it down and it comes up. And then once it comes up, you want to be careful because right here, you'll be able to see, maybe, if I can figure out how to get the angle on it here. There is there we go. That is for your fans. Now I can get my hand down in there and just kind of wiggle it back and forth and it pops right out. And you should have just enough wire so you can start sliding your heatsink back so you can actually get to your LED switch. And then you can do the same, just wiggle it back and forth a little bit and it will pop right out. And if you have problems like that one's just a little bit stuck, just take a screwdriver and pop it right out. You'll see there's a little groove right in the front here. There you go, there's a groove right there. You can put the screwdriver right in the bottom of that and push it straight up. Alright, so we got this down to there. Now before we go any further, I'm going to go ahead and clean off my my GPU here. Clean off all this thermal paste real quick. Now this is a GPU, so we don't really have to worry about everything over here on the sides. It's not that big of a deal at all. And we're going to do the same thing on this. We're going to go ahead and get it a little wet and just clean it right on off. And We are pretty much got that done. Okay. And once you have the thermal paste cleaned off, we're just going to go ahead and set the cooler to the side because we are done with the cooler. But now we need to take off the front plate. In order to take off the front plate, you got to take off all the screws for the back plate and a couple more. Alright, so we got all the screws on the back plate off, and that will come right off. And then there are just a couple more screws. You'll see it here, there, there, and those two. So 5 total screws to take off, and then the front plate will come off. Now, the reason why we are taking the front plate off is because whenever they started issuing out these thermal pads from the issue that they had, people were taking their cards apart and realized that these pads here weren't making any contact. As you can kind of see on mine, it wasn't making full contact. So they sent out a whole new replacement, so now we have to take another step by taking this front plate off to do that. And the first thing is you got to take off all these old thermal pads here. Alright. So, with that, this is what we have in the thermal pad kit from EVGA. Alright, so these two long ones are for the plates. The wider one is going to go onto the back plate, so we can set it to the side. The thin one is going to go on the top of the front plate, which we'll put on as soon as we put the front plate back on. So we're left with these three. Now these three are going to go on the card. Shortest one's going to go here, over these two. And the two other ones that are a little bit longer are going to go over these right here. So we're just going to peel off the clear backing. And we're going to place the thermal pad right on. And then we'll, assuming I can get my finger under that, we'll take that off. There we go. And we'll do the same for the longer ones. And that is literally it. So that's what it should look like. You should have the pad here, there, and there. And once you have those on, you just take your front plate and set your front plate back on like it was. Just like so. And then we're going to reinstall the last 5 screws only that we took out. So hopefully you guys remember which those are. If not, I'll show you how to double check. So I know that these two over here in the middle on the side of the card were 2 of the 5. Now, if you're not sure which other ones you need to put back in, it's pretty simple. Just take this and slide it back over like so, and figure out where the holes don't line up at. So obviously you have one there, and then you're gonna have one there and there, and that's the last 3. Now, while we have this card already on its back, we're going to go ahead and do the back plate. So here is the back plate, what it looks like when it's mounted on the card, like that. And you flip it over. Now when you flip it over, what you're going to see is, there we go, you got your V, and you got 2 little guides right here on either side. So you're going to want to take the wider of the two pads, So you got a skinny one and a wide one. You want the wide one. We are going to peel off the harder plastic back. And what we're going to do is just lay it right in the center. And you're going to want it as close to the edges as possible, but you don't want it to actually go over the edge. If it goes over the edge, you got to trim it back. So it should look something like that. Maybe a little bit straighter, but you get the idea. Now, we're going to put this back together like so. Just set it in there, line up all your holes, and then just put all your screws back in. That's simple. And now we're back to the front. So we're going to take this skinny pad, peel off the hard plastic backing again, and do the same thing. Except this time it's going to go right here on the plate. Not on the chokes, right here on the plate. And again, you don't want it to go over, you just want it to lay right in the center of the card. And once it's on there, you can just peel that back off. Now it's time to apply the thermal paste. Now with these, you can see how it's kind of coming up right here in a little channel. All we're going to do is rip right across so we can create a just a little opening so we can push some thermal paste out. Now this is a GPU, not a CPU, so don't worry about putting too much. It's not the same. It's going to work a little bit different, so we are completely safe. You can gob this on there if you want. I typically don't do gobs, but you know, I put a little bit on there, almost as much as I would put on a CPU, mainly because it doesn't hurt anything. Now, once you have that on there, it's time to put the AC cooler back together. And what we do, or what I do rather, is I'm going to go ahead and hook up this LED connector before I even put this back together. And it'll snap into place. And then I will swing this over, and there is the fan connector that I will push back together with my fingers as soon as it gets over there. And there we go. That is back in. And once that's in, all you have to do is make sure you get it underneath that lip and that it sits right back down like it's supposed to. And once it does that, you just put the screws back together. There we go. And you just take the same 4 screws and you just screw them down. Now, you probably don't have to go counterclockwise, clockwise, or diagonal from each other or any of that. I just do that just because I like to make sure I'm having even force. But it is not a requirement, so you guys just you know, do whatever procedures you guys particularly like. I like this one. It's just a couple extra safety measures. Same thing we do whenever we're building engines for our cars. So if it's good enough for that, I'm sure it's good enough for this. And there we go. That is it. It is back together. It'll be fully functional, and it will work just fine. Alright, so there we go. It's back together. About to reinstall it in our rig back there. And that's all there is to it. It's extremely simple, guys. Like I said, it's just a few screws in the back plate to take off. 4 screws to take off this. Just when you take it off, make sure you be careful to watch for the fan header as well as the LED header. They are easily breakable because the wiring is really small, so you can easily pull it apart if you're not paying attention. But that's all there is to it. Pretty straightforward, guys. Alright, thanks for watching, and if you guys have any questions or comments, comment sections below. We'd be happy to, help you guys out if you have any questions with doing this or any other questions about EVGA and the thermal issue. We might do a video over that later on, but for this video, that's all we're going to go over. So thanks, guys, and see you guys in the next video.